Hello family, enjoy this relaxing moment with Charm Stories. Remember to subscribe and share your thoughts in the comment section. Also generously hit the like button cause it means the world to us. Please sit back, relax and enjoy as we dive into the story. Natalie Sinclair stood in front of a gilded mirror in the bridal suite, her heart pounding against her chest as she admired her gown. Layers of tulle swirled around her feet, and delicate floral lace hugged her torso. This was the gown she had dreamed of since she was a teenager, the perfect symbol of love and commitment. The air smelled of fresh roses, a scent she had carefully chosen to match the bouquets lining the aisle. She could hear the distant murmur of guests arriving, the melodic blend of excited chatter and soft violin music. Her mother, Claire, fussed over the veil, gently draping it over Natalie's shoulders. "My sweet girl," she whispered, her eyes brimming with tears, "you've never looked more beautiful." Natalie smiled, taking a shaky breath. "Thank you, Mom." She turned slightly to see her reflection from another angle. Everything was flawless. Her hair in an elegant updo, the subtle glow on her cheeks, the sparkling diamond earrings that Liam had given her as a wedding gift just a week ago. Her maid of honor, Sophia, poked her head into the room. "Natalie, they're almost ready for you." She offered an encouraging smile, dark curls framing her face. "You look like a princess." Natalie felt a rush of warmth. "Thanks, sophomore. I can't believe this is happening." Sophia laughed softly. "You've only been planning this day for... what, forever?" "Something like that," Natalie said, trying to steady her voice. Even though she was joking, she had indeed meticulously planned every detail. From the grand floral arch to the pale pink color scheme, she wanted it all to be perfect. As Claire left the room to speak to the wedding coordinator, Sophia approached, pressing a gentle hand to Natalie's shoulder. "No more nerves," Sophia said, her voice tender. "You and Liam are meant to be. I've never seen two people more perfect for each other." Natalie's eyes flickered with emotion. "Thank you for saying that." She paused, fiddling with the lace on her dress. "I'm so grateful you're here with me." "Always," Sophia said softly. "Now come on, let's get you down that aisle. The sooner you say, 'I do,' the sooner I can hit the dance floor." Natalie let out a shaky laugh, stepping toward the door. The violin music grew louder, and her heart fluttered with anticipation, and perhaps a thread of inexplicable anxiety. All her life, she'd waited for this moment. She said a silent prayer that nothing would shatter her fairy tale before it even began. The corridor leading to the ceremony was lined with tall windows, letting in golden rays of afternoon sunlight. Natalie paused to catch her breath. Her bouquet, a mix of pale pink peonies and white roses, trembled slightly in her hands. Mia, one of her bridesmaids and close friends, approached with a wary look. "Nat, everything okay?" Natalie swallowed, trying to ignore the knot in her stomach. "Yeah, just pre-wedding jitters," she said with a forced smile. Mia glanced around the hallway. "Have you seen Liam? I just realized I haven't spotted him." A flicker of concern lit up Natalie's eyes. "No, but maybe he's just with his groomsmen. You know how guys are, probably hashing out some last-minute wedding advice or something." Mia gave a tentative nod, but her brow remained furrowed. "Right. Well, we should be starting any minute." The wedding coordinator, a frazzled woman clutching a clipboard, rushed over. "Natalie, we're ready for the processional. Are you ready to go?" Natalie nodded, her fingers gripping the bouquet so tightly her knuckles turned white. She could do this. She would walk down the aisle, and Liam would be waiting there, smiling, perhaps a little nervous but absolutely in love. That's what she'd pictured 1,000 times. The music changed to the bridal processional, and the doors to the ceremony space swung open. The bridesmaids began walking in pairs, then the groomsmen followed. But there was no sign of Liam leading them. As Natalie reached the threshold, she peered down the aisle. Rows of guests stood, craning their necks, all expecting to see the radiant bride making her grand entrance. But something was amiss. Liam should have been at the altar, standing next to the officiant, waiting with that familiar grin. Instead, there was a void, a lonely space where he should have been. Her chest constricted. She paused, one foot on the aisle runner, the other still on the marble floor behind her. The crowd exchanged confused glances. The officiant offered an awkward smile, checking his watch in a way that made Natalie's stomach twist. Seconds felt like hours. A low hum of whispers filled the venue. She glanced around frantically for any sign of Liam. A wave of embarrassment washed over her as she realized everyone was watching her, uncertain why she wasn't continuing down the aisle. After all, the bride is supposed to walk confidently, sure of her groom waiting at the end. But there was no groom. And the sinking feeling in her chest told her something was very, very wrong. Panic gripped Natalie's heart like a vice. Mia dashed toward her, phone in hand. Her expression was as pale as the white pillars surrounding them. "Natalie," she breathed, stepping out of the guest's earshot. "There's a message from Liam." Mia's hand shook as she passed the phone over. Natalie looked down, her mind spinning. The words were simple, brutally so. "I can't do this. I love someone else. I'm sorry." For a moment, Natalie couldn't register what she was reading. She blinked, thinking her vision was blurred or that her mind was playing tricks. But the text was real, and the words wouldn't change no matter how many times she reread them. Her bouquet slid from her grip, scattering petals across the marble floor. Her lungs seized, and she couldn't draw in a full breath. The heat of 100 eyes bored into her. Whispered gasps from the guests rippled through the ceremony space like a chilling wind. She looked up, tears threatening to overflow. "He's not coming," she whispered, barely audible. "He left me." The guests, confused, began whispering more intensely. Some rose from their seats, trying to understand the commotion. The officiant was stepping down from the altar, uncertain what to do. Natalie's mother rushed to her side, alarm etched on her face. "Natalie, darling, what's happening?" "He's not here, Mom," Natalie choked out. "He's gone." Her mother stared at her, eyes flickering from the dropped bouquet to the phone screen, disbelief washing over her. In the corner of her vision, Natalie noticed Sophia, her oldest friend, her bridesmaid, standing at the edge of the crowd. Sophia seemed tense, her face unreadable. Mia quickly looped an arm around Natalie, guiding her away from the prying stares. "Let's go back to the bridal suite," she whispered. "You don't have to deal with this in front of everyone." Shaking and numb, Natalie let Mia lead her away. The violins had halted mid-note, leaving only an awkward, stunned silence to fill the air. All Natalie could hear was her own heartbeat thrumming in her ears, a cruel reminder that time was still moving forward even as her world collapsed. Inside the bridal suite, the mood was suffocating. Natalie slumped onto a velvet couch, her white dress suddenly feeling like a heavy costume for a play she no longer wanted to be in. Her mother stood nearby, eyes flashing with anger and heartbreak. "This is absurd," Claire exclaimed, pacing the room. "Where is he? What does that text mean?" Natalie pressed a trembling hand to her mouth, struggling to contain a sob. She glanced at Mia. "Did he say anything else? Did anyone see him leave?" Mia shook her head, her voice tight. "No, he just vanished. He sent that text and disappeared." Tears finally broke free from Natalie's eyes. "Why would he do this? I don't understand." Her mother sat beside her, enveloping her in a hug. "We'll figure this out. We'll fix it." But how could anything be fixed now? Outside the suite, she could hear the murmurs of guests in the hall, the growing chatter of confusion and sympathy. The wedding coordinator knocked gently and poked her head in. "Ms. Sinclair, your guests, they're wondering what's going on. Some are leaving, others are waiting for an explanation." Natalie swallowed hard, her mouth dry. She remembered how happy and excited everyone was just an hour ago. Friends had flown in from across the country. Relatives had taken time off to celebrate. Now, all they had was a scandal, a bride abandoned at the altar. "I can't face them," she muttered, staring at the plush carpet. "They're probably pitying me, whispering about what could be so wrong that Liam would walk out on his wedding day." Mia placed a tentative hand on her shoulder. "Nat, you don't owe anyone an explanation. You didn't do anything wrong. Her mother nodded in agreement. We can have the coordinator announce that the wedding is cancelled and ask everyone to go home. Natalie squeezed her eyes shut, her lips trembling. Yes. Let's do that. Please, just get them out of here. As the coordinator left to deliver the news, Natalie looked toward the mirror. Her reflection seemed like a stranger, makeup streaked with tears, eyes full of raw pain. She thought she'd known Liam. She thought he'd loved her. She had been so sure of his devotion that she never even considered the possibility of betrayal. And now, her dream wedding had turned into a public spectacle, a humiliating gossip story that people would discuss for years. She felt exposed, vulnerable, and utterly alone. Later that evening, after most of the guests had dispersed, Natalie sat on the bridal suite couch, still in her gown. She hadn't moved in hours, her mind replaying the afternoon like a broken record. Mia had gone to handle logistics, but Sophia hovered near the door. Sophia took a cautious step forward. Natalie, I'm so sorry. Natalie lifted her tear-streaked face. Sophia, did you know anything about this? Did Liam say anything to you? Sophia's eyes flickered with guilt. I swear, I had no idea he would do this so suddenly. Natalie swallowed, her heart pounding with a new wave of dread. But you knew something was going on? Sophia hesitated. He told me a while back that he was having doubts. I thought it was just pre-wedding nerves, you know? But I never expected him to leave you at the altar. Blinking back tears, Natalie looked at her closest friend. Why didn't you tell me? I didn't want to upset you, Sophia stammered. I thought it would pass. Liam never said he was in love with anyone else. Natalie's chest tightened. She remembered the text. I love someone else. Who could that someone else be? Just then, Mia appeared at the door, her face ashen. Nat, there's something else you need to know. With difficulty, Natalie forced herself to stand. What is it? Mia glanced uneasily at Sophia, then back at Natalie. I found Liam's note in the groomsmen's room. It was addressed to you. He said he's leaving because he loves Sophia. A deafening silence followed. Natalie's gaze shot back to Sophia, confusion and betrayal warring in her eyes. You. Sophia's face went scarlet. No. That can't be right. He must have misunderstood. I never said. She looked genuinely panicked, but the seed of suspicion was already planted in Natalie's mind. You're my best friend, Natalie said, her voice trembling with anger and hurt. How could you do this to me? Sophia burst into tears, her voice quaking. I promise, I never wanted this. Yes, we got close, but... Natalie held up a hand, halting her explanation. The pieces were coming together in her head, the lingering glances between Sophia and Liam, the hushed phone calls, the unexplainable tension at the rehearsal dinner. Had she been so blinded by wedding excitement that she'd missed all the signs? Get out, Natalie hissed, her hands balled into fists at her sides. Sophia opened her mouth to protest, but the fury in Natalie's eyes made her step back. She turned and fled the room, leaving Natalie reeling in a storm of shock and heartbreak. Mia approached carefully, tears in her own eyes. Nat, I'm sorry. I didn't know until now. Natalie's breath hitched. He left me for my best friend, she whispered, the reality sinking in. Rage, sorrow, betrayal, emotions swirled through her like a hurricane. She felt as though the ground beneath her had dissolved, leaving her free-falling into a bottomless pit. There was no wedding, no happily ever after. Only heartbreak and the crippling realization that the two people she trusted most had destroyed her life in a single day. That night, Natalie refused to return to her apartment or go to her parents' home. She didn't want to face the barrage of questions or deal with the suffocating pity from neighbors and relatives. Instead, she slipped out of the venue, still wearing her wedding dress, and hailed a cab on the street corner. The cabbie, a middle-aged man with tired eyes, glanced at her in the rear-view mirror. Rough night? He asked, sympathy shading his tone as he took in her disheveled bridal attire and tear-stained cheeks. You could say that, Natalie replied, pulling the veil from her hair with shaky hands. Can you drive anywhere? Anywhere but here. He nodded. Sure thing. You got somewhere in mind. Natalie shook her head. Her phone buzzed incessantly, calls from family, texts from concerned friends, messages from acquaintances who'd undoubtedly heard the gossip. She turned the phone off. Just find me a hotel downtown. The cab wove through city streets, neon lights and towering skyscrapers passing by in a blur. Natalie felt like a ghost, transparent, weightless, drifting through a world that no longer felt real. She tried not to think about Liam's cruel text, about Sophia's betrayal, about the future she had planned that no longer existed. Eventually, the driver pulled up in front of a modest downtown hotel. Natalie paid him and stepped out into the night air, the slight chill stinging her cheeks. She quickly slipped inside, ignoring the startled look from the receptionist who took in her wedding gown and puffy eyes. It was a good thing she had a credit card in her clutch. She booked a room for the night, barely hearing the receptionist's polite welcome. All she could think of was lying down somewhere dark and quiet, away from anyone who knew her. Once upstairs, she slid the keycard into the door and entered the small, dimly lit space. The bed was crisply made, the decor unremarkable, but it was sanctuary enough. She collapsed onto the mattress, the layers of tulle and lace fanning around her. She stayed like that for a moment, staring at the ceiling, feeling utterly hollow. A tidal wave of grief suddenly overcame her. She pressed her face into the pillows and let out a muffled scream, raw and guttural. For hours, she cried big, wrenching sobs that left her chest aching and her throat raw. She didn't think about what tomorrow would bring. The weight of today was crushing enough. When she finally forced herself up, she walked to the bathroom and flicked on the harsh fluorescent light. Standing there in her once pristine gown, her makeup streaked like war paint across her cheeks, she faced her reflection. Her eyes were bloodshot, and her hair was matted with hairspray and tears. She inhaled a shaky breath, turned on the faucet, and began scrubbing off the layers of foundation, mascara, and heartbreak. As she patted her face dry, she caught her own gaze in the mirror. "This won't be the end of me," she whispered. "I won't let it." She didn't know how, but she made herself a promise in that dingy hotel bathroom. She would survive this. And one day, she'd make Liam and Sophia regret the day they ever betrayed her. Morning light filtered through the thin hotel curtains, rousing Natalie from a fitful sleep. She groaned, disoriented, until the events of the previous day slammed back into her consciousness like a hammer to the chest. Her eyes drifted to the white gown crumpled on a chair in the corner, a haunting reminder of her humiliation. She rolled onto her back, staring at the ceiling, heart pounding with renewed sorrow. Her phone lay silent on the bedside table, turned off to keep the world at bay. Part of her knew she couldn't hide forever, but for now, she just wanted to be alone with her thoughts. After a few minutes, she forced herself to sit up. Her head throbbed from the hours of crying, and her throat felt scratchy. She grabbed the bottle of water from the hotel's welcome tray and took a long sip, then flicked on her phone. Notifications flooded the screen. Messages from friends, missed calls from her parents, even voicemails from numbers she didn't recognize. She hovered over a text from her mother. "Please come home. We just want to know you're safe." Guilt gnawed at Natalie. She knew her family was worried sick. But she wasn't ready to face them yet, not after being so publicly abandoned. Mia had sent countless messages, too. "Where are you? Please call me. We're here for you." Even as she read them, Natalie couldn't form a response. Her emotions were too raw, too tangled. She opened her social media apps to find a storm of well wishes, pitying comments, and rumors swirling about what had happened. Hurt and anger simmered beneath her skin. Without a second thought, she deactivated her accounts, cutting herself off from the digital chaos. She rose from the bed and headed to the shower, letting the hot water pound against her tense muscles. While she rinsed away the last remnants of her bridal makeup and tears, she tried to imagine a future that didn't involve Liam. It seemed nearly impossible. 4 years, she'd seen her life and his as intertwined, but now that fantasy was dead. Wrapped in a towel, she returned to the bedroom. The wedding dress still taunted her from the chair. With a shaky resolve, she stuffed it into the hotel's plastic laundry bag, sealing away that painful chapter. She dressed in the spare clothes she had, simple jeans and a t-shirt she'd packed just in case, and grabbed her suitcase. As she stepped out of the room, she paused, taking one final look. This was the place where she'd cried harder than she ever had in her life. Where she'd made a vow to herself that, somehow, she would rebuild. "Goodbye," she whispered into the stillness, as though leaving a piece of her broken heart behind. Then she closed the door, walked down the corridor, and stepped onto the elevator. With each ding that brought her closer to the lobby, she reminded herself, this is not the end. It's the beginning of something new, even if that newness came wrapped in heartbreak and tears. 2 days later, Natalie found herself in her old apartment, packing up her belongings in a methodical trance. She had refused calls from nearly everyone, only answering her mother once to reassure her she was safe. When her mom asked where she was going, Natalie simply said, "Away," and ended the call. She needed distance from her past, from her shattered dreams, from the gossip. The idea had come to her in the quiet hours of the morning. A new city, a fresh start. She wanted no reminders of Liam or Sophia lurking around every corner. Her job at a local marketing agency was decent, but she'd learned of an opening at a top firm in a bustling metropolitan area across the country. The hours would be long, the expectations higher, but the anonymity appealed to her. Her cat, Luna, meowed from the corner, sensing her owner's agitation. Natalie dropped to one knee, scooping the cat into her arms. "You'll come with me, okay?" she whispered, stroking Luna's soft fur. "We're going to start over." She had only told Mia of her decision, and even then, she provided few details. Mia had protested, pleading with her to stay, or at least let her help. But Natalie was resolute. She wanted no pity, no forced comfort. The heartbreak was hers to bear alone, and she believed that confronting it head-on, away from familiar faces, was her best chance at healing. After hours of boxing up clothes, personal items, and memories she wished she could erase, Natalie finally looked around. The place felt hollow, its once warm ambience reduced to cold walls and echoing floors. She thought of the countless nights Liam had spent here, the plans they'd made for a shared future. That life was gone now. She scribbled a quick note and left it on the kitchen counter for the landlord, explaining she'd forward her new address in the coming weeks. Then she heaved the last suitcase into the hallway, Luna's carrier balanced on top. Natalie locked the door, hesitating for the briefest moment. In that stillness, she allowed herself one final wave of mourning. Then she let out a slow breath, squared her shoulders, and walked away from her old life, without so much as a backward glance. The plane touched down in the early evening, the skyline of the new city glowing like a promise on the horizon. Natalie had arranged for a short-term rental in a modern high-rise. She wanted a place that felt nothing like her old apartment, so she chose a sleek studio with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the bustling streets. The ride from the airport was a blur of neon signs, honking taxis, and towering buildings that seemed to stretch into infinity. Every block teemed with energy, a far cry from her quiet suburban neighborhood back home. She felt both exhilarated and terrified. This was exactly what she needed. The next morning, she stepped out onto the city sidewalk in crisp business attire, determined to ace her interview at the renowned marketing firm. The building was a gleaming skyscraper, the lobby buzzing with well-dressed professionals. Natalie's stomach did flip-flops, but she reminded herself, "You've been through the worst. This is nothing." She introduced herself to the receptionist, who directed her to the 23rd floor. Upon arrival, she was greeted by a panel of interviewers, 3 sharp-eyed executives who wasted no time peppering her with questions about her experience, her campaigns, her ambitions. Summoning her inner confidence, Natalie showcased her portfolio, detailing successful projects she had led at her previous job. Despite her personal turmoil, her passion for marketing and branding shone through. She felt a spark of hope as she noticed the interviewers nodding in approval. When the final interviewer, a stern-looking woman named Bridget, asked, "Why did you leave your previous position?" Natalie paused. She couldn't very well say, "I was left at the altar and needed to run away from my old life." Instead, she offered a composed smile. "I felt it was time for a new challenge, one that would push me to grow and learn." Bridget regarded her for a moment before nodding. "Well, we're always looking for driven individuals. We'll be in touch soon." Natalie walked out of the skyscraper with a sense of cautious optimism. The city around her glimmered with possibility, and she allowed herself a small smile. She had taken the first steps toward a new life, one defined not by heartbreak, but by ambition and hope. 2 months later, Natalie was settling into her new routine. She got the job at the marketing firm, an entry-level position, but with excellent potential for growth. Throwing herself into work became her salvation. She poured every ounce of energy into late-night brainstorming sessions, client pitches, and brand strategies. But her transformation went beyond her career. The emotional turmoil from Liam's betrayal simmered inside her, fueling a hunger to become someone entirely new. She joined a nearby gym, the kind open 24/7, so she could work out whenever restlessness gnawed at her. At first, the gym was intimidating. Rows of treadmills, the clang of free weights, people of all fitness levels pounding out their stress. Natalie felt self-conscious, but a friendly personal trainer named Carla offered her guidance. Carla was a powerhouse of positivity, pushing Natalie to test her limits on the treadmill and with free weights. Initially, Natalie dragged herself through each workout, sweat pouring, lungs burning. But she felt a strange catharsis in the discomfort. Every time her muscles ached, every time she gasped for air, she felt like she was shedding the old version of herself, the one who was too naive to see her fiancé cheating with her best friend. Her physical changes came slowly at first, a bit more muscle definition, increased stamina, improved posture. But they mirrored the shift in her mindset. She was learning to push through pain rather than shrink from it. Natalie also found solace in a makeover. She'd always kept her hair in a simple style, but now she visited a high-end salon. She emerged with sleek, highlighted locks that framed her face in a bold, modern cut. She revamped her wardrobe, trading conservative pastels for tailored blazers, pencil skirts, and statement heels that clicked with authority against the office floors. Her co-workers noticed, too. "You look fantastic," one of her team members, Jade, remarked. "What's your secret?" Natalie would only smile. Discipline, heartbreak, and raw determination, she thought, but never said aloud. Every day, she felt a little stronger, both inside and out. And every day, she reminded herself of the vow she'd made in that dingy hotel room. She would not be defined by Liam's betrayal. She was forging a new identity, one that was powerful, resilient, and untouchable by the whispers of her past. Natalie's days began to blur into a routine of work, gym, and quiet evenings in her high-rise studio. She didn't socialize much. Her focus was on building her career and personal strength. But fate had a way of intervening. One evening, after a late work event, she found herself at a sophisticated networking mixer for marketing professionals and entrepreneurs. She was nursing a club soda, scanning the room, when she felt a presence beside her. "Not a fan of the champagne?" a smooth male voice asked. She turned to see a tall, impeccably dressed man who appeared to be in his mid-30s. His dark hair was styled neatly, and an air of confidence radiated from him. "I'm not much of a drinker these days," Natalie replied, offering a polite smile. He extended a business card. Adrian Black, venture capitalist and entrepreneur. She recognized the name. Adrian Black was known for investing in disruptive startups, often doubling or tripling their value within a few years. He was something of a legend in the local business scene. "Natalie Sinclair," she introduced herself, noting the flicker of recognition in Adrian's eyes. "I've heard of you," he said calmly. "You're at Whitebridge Marketing, right?" Her eyebrows rose. "I am. How do you know that?" He shrugged casually. "I make it my business to know interesting people in this city. Your pitch at last month's digital branding conference was impressive." A flush of surprise crept into Natalie's cheeks. She had given a brief presentation that day, but she never imagined someone like Adrian would remember. "That's very flattering." He raised his glass in a quiet toast. "I see potential, Natalie." They talked for nearly an hour. Adrian was direct, intelligent, and refreshingly genuine. He asked about her aspirations, her strategies for marketing campaigns, and what drove her to succeed. She answered with honesty, skillfully sidestepping any personal details about her heartbreak. As the event wound down, Adrian slipped her a sleek black card. "I'd like to meet again." My company is always looking for sharp minds. If you're open to an opportunity, let's talk. Natalie stared at the embossed letters, Black Enterprise Group. This could be a game changer for her career. I appreciate this, she said, slipping the card into her clutch. Adrian offered a parting smile. I'll be in touch. When he departed, Natalie felt a twinge of exhilaration. Something about Adrian's interest felt like a stepping stone, a sign that her relentless efforts were paying off. She had no idea just how profoundly this connection would alter her destiny, or how it might intertwine with her unresolved past. True to his word, Adrian Black reached out a few days later, inviting Natalie to an informal meeting at his private office suite. Despite her nerves, she arrived prepared, armed with her portfolio and a quiet determination. Adrian's office overlooked the city skyline, glass walls giving a panoramic view of skyscrapers and bustling streets below. He poured himself a coffee and offered her one. Let's hear your vision, Natalie. If you join my team, what impact do you see yourself making? She spoke confidently about modern marketing techniques, the importance of storytelling in brand development, and how she believed her unique perspective could elevate his company's ventures. Adrian listened intently, occasionally making notes. You're ambitious, he said finally, setting his mug down. I like that. But ambition alone isn't enough. Will you put in the hours, the sacrifices, to see projects through? Natalie didn't hesitate. Absolutely. I have no problem working late nights, weekends, whatever it takes. His gaze lingered on her, as though assessing her authenticity. Then he nodded. I've got a project for you. Something small, to test the waters. A tech startup where funding needs a fresh branding strategy. If you can impress me, there'll be more where that came from. Natalie exhaled, relief and excitement mingling. I won't let you down. Over the next year, Adrian gave her increasingly challenging assignments. Projects for emerging brands, digital campaigns with tight deadlines, international ventures needing local market adaptation. She tackled them all with tireless dedication, often working until midnight, fueled by coffee and sheer grit. Her responsibilities at Whitebridge Marketing became secondary as she poured her true passion into Adrian's projects. Eventually, seeing her potential and results, Adrian made her an offer that changed everything. A top position managing marketing strategies across multiple verticals for Black Enterprise Group. The financial compensation was more than she'd ever dreamed possible. She could afford a better apartment, though she stayed in her modest studio for now, preferring to save and invest. Her confidence soared. That scared, shattered bride who had once cried alone in a budget hotel room felt like a distant memory. When she updated her LinkedIn profile to reflect her new role, congratulatory messages flooded in from old classmates and former coworkers. She noticed one day, with cold satisfaction, that Liam had viewed her profile. She half expected him to reach out then, but he didn't, at least not yet. Meanwhile, Sophia was oddly silent on social media, though Natalie had blocked her long ago. Natalie's old self might have found bitterness in this new power. But she channeled any lingering rage into productivity, pushing herself to climb ever higher. Each day, she reminded herself, success is the best revenge. Nearly 2 years had passed since the disastrous wedding day. Natalie had become a rising star in Adrian's empire, her name now synonymous with groundbreaking marketing campaigns that catapulted startups into the limelight. She had traveled to conferences, networked with industry giants, and spoken at panel discussions. With each success, her reputation grew. Still, she kept her personal life guarded. Her colleagues knew she was driven, sharp, and not to be trifled with. But they had no idea about the heartbreak that had ignited her ambition. One sunny afternoon, after a particularly triumphant project launch, Adrian pulled her aside. "You're doing incredible work, Natalie," he said, a rare smile gracing his features. "Have you considered upping your public profile? Social media presence, personal branding. People in our field would eat that up." She hesitated. After the fiasco of her wedding, she'd all but abandoned her social media. Yet, she knew Adrian was right. Building her personal brand could open even more doors. That evening, she reactivated her social accounts, LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter. She updated her profile pictures with a professional headshot, wrote a concise bio highlighting her accomplishments, and posted a few industry insights. The reaction was immediate. Messages poured in from acquaintances old and new. Colleagues shared her posts, praising her expertise. Curiosity got the better of her, and she scrolled through the friends' suggestions. Among them were familiar names. Old high school classmates, co-workers from her hometown marketing job, even Liam's family members. She felt a pang of discomfort but pressed on. Although she had no intention of reconnecting with Liam or Sophia, she wondered idly about their lives. Were they still together? Married, maybe. She checked her block list. Both Liam and Sophia were there, and she decided to keep it that way. Out of sight, out of mind. Yet, a quiet thrill buzzed through her. She was unrecognizable compared to the timid bride who had once cried herself to sleep. This Natalie was polished, successful, and respected. If anyone from her past saw her now, they would barely believe the transformation. In the solace of her luxurious yet minimalist studio, she stared out at the city lights. Her cat, Luna, purred contentedly at her feet. She stroked Luna's fur, an odd calm settling in. She might never fully heal from the betrayal, but she was no longer the victim. She was a phoenix rising from the ashes, and nothing, and no one, could drag her back down again. A few weeks after her social media comeback, Natalie attended an industry gala at one of the city's most opulent hotels. The event was a who's who of marketing innovators, tech CEOs, and venture capitalists. Adrian had insisted she attend, calling it a chance to rub shoulders with potential clients. She arrived in a tailored black evening gown, hair swept into an elegant chignon. People turned to stare. Her aura was one of poised confidence. As she made her way through the grand ballroom, exchanging pleasantries and business cards, she heard a familiar voice. "Sophia, darling, you must try these hors d'oeuvres." Natalie froze in mid-step. "Sophia." Her pulse spiked, and she turned toward the voice. Standing near the buffet was a petite woman with carefully curled hair and a shimmering cocktail dress. She was smiling at a group of acquaintances. Sophia. The woman who had once been her best friend and had wrecked her wedding. Natalie's blood ran cold, her grip tightening around her clutch. She debated fleeing, but a part of her wanted to see how Sophia would react. She stepped forward, chest taut with tension. Sophia caught sight of her, and the color drained from her face. For a split second, their gazes locked, Natalie's calm, steely stare meeting Sophia's wide-eyed shock. Then Sophia put down her champagne flute, swallowing visibly. "And Natalie," Sophia stammered, taking a step toward her. I didn't know you'd be here." Natalie lifted her chin. "I have business here. Adrian Black's company is sponsoring the event." Sophia's eyes flickered with something resembling envy. "You work with Adrian Black?" She attempted a smile, though it quivered at the corners. "I've seen your updates on LinkedIn. You look amazing." Natalie offered a polite, distant nod. "Thank you." Sophia fidgeted, clearly unnerved. I'm really happy for your success." Behind her words, Natalie sensed guilt. It took every ounce of restraint not to lash out with accusations. Instead, she maintained her composure. "That's kind of you," Natalie replied coolly. "How have you been?" She almost choked on the question. It felt bizarre to ask after everything, but curiosity tugged at her. Was Sophia still with Liam? Sophia averted her eyes. "I've been, well, I'm, engaged," she admitted quietly. A swirl of emotions twisted in Natalie's stomach. She forced a calm smile. "Congratulations." An awkward silence lingered, thick enough to cut with a knife. Sophia swallowed again, as though building courage to speak. "Natalie, I want you to know, I'm sorry for everything. I never meant for it to happen the way it did." Memories of heartbreak surged like a tidal wave, but Natalie kept her face neutral. "What's done is done. Excuse me, I have to speak with a client." She pivoted and walked away, head high. Her heart pounded with the reminder of old wounds, but she felt a sense of victory. No tears this time, no crippling pain. She was stronger now, and no ghost from her past could take that away. The very next morning, as Natalie sipped her coffee in the office, her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Hey, it's Liam. Saw your profile on LinkedIn. You look amazing. Can we catch up sometime?" Natalie's heart lurched. She hadn't heard from Liam since the day he left her at the altar. She was tempted to block the number immediately, but curiosity got the better of her. Had Sophia told him she'd seen Natalie at the gala? She stared at the text, the memory of that humiliating day clawing at her. But instead of heartbreak, she felt a twist of satisfaction. Liam wanted to catch up, likely after seeing her success. Typical, she thought. The moment she was doing well, he decided to slither back. She locked her phone without responding, focusing on her work. Throughout the day, her thoughts returned to the message. She was proud of not engaging, but a part of her itched with a desire to confront him, to let him see the woman he had so foolishly underestimated. Later that evening, she vented to Darian in passing. They were wrapping up a long meeting, and she casually mentioned the text, more as an aside than anything else. "You don't owe him anything," Darian stated matter-of-factly. "He's beneath you now." Natalie appreciated Darian's bluntness. "I know," she sighed. "It's just that. He left me in the most humiliating way. Sometimes I wonder what I'd even say if we ever crossed paths." Darian raised an eyebrow. "You'll figure it out. And if he tries to drag you down, remember who you've become." The conversation filled her with renewed resolve. The next time she checked her phone, Liam had sent another text. "Just want to talk, Nat. No hard feelings, right?" She snorted at the absurdity. No hard feelings. She deleted the messages without reply. She had more important matters to attend to, like conquering the business world and building a life where traitors had no place. 2 months drifted by without further contact from Liam. Natalie immersed herself in high-stakes marketing campaigns, securing new clients with a tenacity that impressed even Darian. She occasionally heard from Mia, who dropped vague updates about mutual acquaintances, but never mentioned Liam or Sophia. That changed on a quiet Sunday afternoon, as Natalie lounged in her living room scrolling through a business journal. Her phone beeped. Mia was calling. Natalie answered, bracing herself for whatever news Mia might bring. "Hey, Mia." Mia's voice sounded tentative. "Hey, Nat. How are you?" "Busy, but good. What's up?" Mia paused, then exhaled. "Look, I know you might not want to hear this, but I thought you should know before you see it on social media or something. Liam and Sophia just announced their engagement." A mixture of shock and a dull pang of pain hit Natalie's chest. She closed her eyes, letting the news settle. There it was, another betrayal, twisted deeper. They'd gone from an affair to an engagement. The heartbreak that used to consume her had been replaced by a controlled fury. "I see," Natalie said calmly. "Thanks for letting me know." Mia's voice wavered. "I'm sorry. I know it's a lot. They're apparently having an engagement party next month, a big event." Natalie took a slow breath. "Let them. It doesn't concern me anymore." "Nat, you sure you're okay?" She glanced out the window at the city skyline. "I'm fine. I appreciate you telling me." They ended the call soon after. Natalie set her phone down, exhaling the tension that had built in her shoulders. She was surprised at how composed she felt. In the past, such news would have reduced her to tears and anguish. Now, it merely registered as an unpleasant fact, like a passing thunderstorm she could navigate around. Still, a spark flared in her mind. They're getting engaged, after all they did? She felt no desire to sabotage their relationship, but the thought of Sophia wearing the bride-to-be title that should have been hers was infuriating. Yet, she also recognized an opportunity to show them exactly what they lost when they betrayed her. She wasn't sure what shape that opportunity might take. But somewhere in the recesses of her mind, a plan began to form. A week later, while Natalie was powering through a complex rebranding project, her phone buzzed with a call from Mia. Reluctantly, she answered, fully expecting more updates about Liam and Sophia's engagement. "I'm going to cut to the chase," Mia said, words tumbling out. Liam and Sophia are throwing a fancy engagement party at the Starview Hotel next month. And I got an invitation. They want me to invite you." Natalie almost laughed. "Me? Why on earth would they want me there?" Mia hesitated. "I guess it's their twisted way of making peace? Or maybe they feel guilty." Sophia texted me, saying she wants to bury the hatchet. Natalie's grip on the phone tightened. Bury the hatchet? She couldn't think of a more ironic phrase. But a small, vengeful part of her relished the idea of attending, of showing up looking and feeling like a far cry from the devastated bride they'd left behind. "Wow," Natalie murmured, considering the implications. "This is unexpected." "Look, I understand if you want nothing to do with it," Mia said. "But I also know you, Nat. You're not the same woman you were back then." Natalie's mind raced through different scenarios. Should she go just to show them how much she'd changed? Or would that be stooping to their level? "Thank you for letting me know," she said finally. "I'll think about it." Mia sounded relieved. "Okay. No pressure. Just do what feels right for you." They hung up, and Natalie leaned back in her office chair, tapping a pen against her desk. She recalled the vow she made in that lonely hotel room, to never let them see her broken again. Attending their engagement party might be a chance to prove that vow was unbreakable. Days passed, and Natalie mulled over whether to attend Liam and Sophia's engagement party. Part of her felt it might be wise to ignore it entirely. Why give them the satisfaction of her presence? Yet another part, the part that remembered the anguish of standing alone at the altar, wanted closure. Or revenge. Maybe both. She confided in Adrian one evening when they were working late. Although Adrian knew bits of her past, he didn't know the full depth of her heartbreak. But she laid it out succinctly. "They betrayed me in the worst possible way," she concluded, "and now they're throwing this lavish engagement party." Adrian studied her. "And you're debating whether to go?" "Exactly. I don't want to look petty, but I also want them to see how much I've grown." He tapped a pen against the table, his expression thoughtful. "Sometimes success is the best answer. You've already succeeded. They know it. But if you want to walk in there and make a statement, I can't say I blame you." The notion appealed to her sense of poetic justice. "What would you do?" Adrian shrugged. "Me? I'd walk in, own the room, and leave them speechless. Then I'd go back to my life without a care. But that's just me." Natalie exhaled slowly, a grin tugging at her lips. "Thanks." His phone buzzed, and he turned to answer it, leaving her to her thoughts. Despite the risk of stepping into a hornet's nest of memories and judgment, she felt a growing certainty that she needed this. Not for them, but for herself, to rewrite the narrative of her last encounter with Liam and Sophia, to replace the humiliating image of a jilted bride with that of a triumphant, unstoppable woman. By the time she left the office, her mind was made up. She'd go to the engagement party. But if she was going to do it, she'd do it on her terms. Grandly, confidently, and without a single shred of apology. Natalie's decision set in motion a series of meticulous preparations. If she was going to face her past head-on, she wanted to look and feel invincible. First, she booked an appointment with a celebrated designer known for creating custom, jaw-dropping dresses. Over champagne in the designer's upscale studio, she described what she needed, a piece that commanded attention, something that whispered elegance but screamed success. The designer, a flamboyant man with an impeccable sense of style, sketched a few ideas on his tablet. "You want something sleek, sophisticated, with a bit of wow factor, yes?" "Absolutely," Natalie replied. "I need to make an entrance that will leave them speechless." He nodded, eyes gleaming. "I have just the idea. It will hug your figure, have a dramatic silhouette, and when you walk, heads will turn. Trust me." Next, she visited her hair and makeup artist. She wanted a style different from her everyday look, something bold yet classy. The stylist suggested a sleek, low bun with subtle highlights that framed her face. For makeup, they agreed on a radiant glow and a confident red lip that conveyed power. Then came the question of transportation. She decided on a luxury car service, a black limousine that would roll up to the Starview Hotel, exuding an air of VIP prestige. As the date of the engagement party loomed, she prepared mentally, too. She spent extra time at the gym, channeling any lingering anger into her workouts. She practiced calm, measured responses for potential confrontations. She refused to let them see any hint of old wounds. On the final day before the party, she stared at her reflection in the mirror, wearing the gown the designer had delivered. The woman looking back at her was poised, confident, and radiant. She almost didn't recognize herself, but in a good way. It was time to face the past. Not to grovel or to fight, but to stand tall, unbreakable, and let her success speak volumes. The Starview Hotel was a testament to opulence, all glittering chandeliers and sleek marble floors. As Natalie's limousine pulled up to the grand entrance, she took one last steadying breath, ignoring the flutter in her stomach. A doorman opened the car door, and Natalie stepped out, the designer gown skimming her curves perfectly. A hush seemed to ripple through the hotel staff and guests who milled around the lobby. She handed her invitation to the hostess, who guided her to a private ballroom on the top floor. As the elevator ascended, she felt a tingle of anticipation. She would not cower, she would rule the room. When the doors slid open, the sound of lively music and laughter spilled in. Inside the ballroom, a crowd of well-dressed guests mingled, champagne flutes in hand. Elegant decorations in white and gold adorned the space. A banner read, "Congratulations, Liam and Sophia." Natalie squared her shoulders and swept through the entrance. Heads turned like dominoes, one after another, as people noticed her. Some recognized her as the jilted bride from that infamous wedding day. Others recognized her from her professional rise in the city's business scene. Sophia was the first to spot her, standing by an ornate table laden with gifts. Sophia's eyes widened in shock, her grip tightening on a glass of sparkling wine. Liam, just a few steps away, followed her gaze and nearly choked on his drink. For a heartbeat, time stood still. It felt as if the entire room was holding its breath, waiting to see how this moment would unfold. Natalie offered a cool, gracious smile, glancing over the crowd with an air of serene confidence. In that instant, she owned the room. Every trace of her former vulnerability had been replaced by a polished, formidable presence. The tension was palpable, and people whispered excitedly, hungry for drama. Natalie strolled further into the party, greeting an acquaintance from a previous networking event. She made light conversation, maintaining a polite facade, all the while acutely aware of Liam and Sophia's wide-eyed stares. They wanted me here, she thought, a wry smile tugging at her lips. Well, here I am. Even without speaking directly to Liam or Sophia, Natalie sensed her presence was creating a stir. She could see guests glancing her way, then whispering to one another, no doubt recalling the bride who'd been left at the altar and was now waltzing in with the confidence of a queen. She navigated the room, exchanging polite pleasantries with strangers and acquaintances alike. Some recognized her from her new career heights and were eager to chat about marketing trends or upcoming projects. Natalie gladly obliged, deftly steering conversations toward her recent achievements and future ambitions. Occasionally, her gaze would flicker to Liam. She caught him watching her more than once, his expression oscillating between regret and fascination. Sophia tried to save face, chatting animatedly with a cluster of friends, but her eyes kept darting to Natalie with thinly veiled unease. Yet, Natalie didn't need to approach them first. This was her silent revenge. Her mere existence in that space, radiant and unbowed, was enough to make them squirm. She could practically feel their confusion. How did she become so successful? How did she move on so completely? A hush fell as the DJ announced that Liam and Sophia would soon make a toast. Natalie stepped to the side of the room, near a tall window that overlooked the glittering city skyline. She took a sip of champagne, her first taste of alcohol in months, relishing the effervescence against her lips. She remembered the day she vowed never to let their betrayal define her again. Now, watching Liam and Sophia prepare to address their guests, she felt an almost surreal detachment. She had come so far. Let them see, she thought. Let them see exactly what they lost. The crowd gathered around Liam and Sophia for their engagement toast. Liam cleared his throat, a forced smile on his face, while Sophia attempted to look relaxed. "We want to thank everyone for coming tonight," Liam began. "Sophia and I are so grateful to have you all here to celebrate our engagement. It's been quite a journey for us, and we couldn't be happier to share this new chapter with our closest friends." Natalie maintained a neutral expression. She caught sight of Mia, standing off to the side, looking uncertainly between Natalie and the engaged couple. For a moment, their eyes met, and Mia gave a supportive nod. Sophia took over, raising her champagne flute. "To love, new beginnings, and to forgiveness," she said, pointedly glancing at Natalie. Some guests followed her gaze. Natalie arched an eyebrow. The nerve of them to toast forgiveness, implying that all sins could be washed away with a few flowery words. She refused to let the moment rattle her. Instead, she lifted her flute and gave a faint, detached smile. Once the toast ended, the music resumed, and guests dispersed. Liam hesitated, then started walking toward Natalie. She braced herself, setting her glass on a nearby table. He reached her side, clearing his throat nervously. "Hey, Natalie, thanks for coming." She studied him, noting the sheen of sweat on his brow. He looked polished but uneasy. "Of course. Thanks for the invitation." He shifted awkwardly, glancing around. You look incredible. I barely recognized you." Natalie gave him a measured smile. 2 years can change a person." He nodded, swallowing. "Yeah, it seems it's changed you a lot. I've been following your success online. You're killing it." "Thank you," she replied softly, her tone polite but distant. Inside, she felt a flicker of triumph. This was the man who'd once thought she'd be nothing without him. Liam exhaled, voice trembling. "Nat, I'm sorry for everything. I know it's too late to make it right, but I want you to know I regret hurting you." She tilted her head, studying his remorseful expression. The old Natalie might have melted, searching for some sign of sincerity. But this Natalie was hardened by heartbreak, fueled by self-discovery. "It's in the past," she said, her voice cool. "I've moved on. I suggest you do the same." His eyes flickered with regret, but also a touch of longing. I sometimes wonder what would have happened if I hadn't, made that mistake." "That's not really my concern anymore," Natalie replied, meeting his gaze steadily. "You have Sophia now." Liam glanced toward Sophia, who was busy chatting with guests, her demeanor tense. Then he turned back to Natalie. In that unspoken moment, it was clear he recognized he'd lost something priceless. But it was too late. Natalie resisted the urge to gloat. Just standing there, poised and successful, was payback enough. She had no interest in rehashing the past or consoling his regrets. With a slight nod, she stepped around him, mingling again with the partygoers. "The sweetest payback," she thought, "is letting him witness the life I built without him." A short while later, as Natalie was conversing with an influential tech entrepreneur, she felt a gentle tap on her shoulder. She turned to see Liam again, looking flustered. "Can we talk for a moment?" he asked quietly, glancing at the entrepreneur in apology. Natalie frowned but excused herself politely. She followed Liam to a quieter corner near the bar, crossing her arms as she waited for him to speak. He ran a hand through his hair. "I need to ask you something. Are you dating someone? I saw a post about you and Adrian Black." Natalie almost laughed. "So that's what this is about." Liam, obviously threatened by the mention of Adrian's name. "Yes, Adrian and I have a close working relationship," she said, sidestepping the question of romance. Liam nodded, tension radiating from him. "But I saw pictures of you too. Traveling, it looked pretty cozy." Her gaze hardened. She had posted a few photos from conferences, events, and dinners with Adrian. More professional than personal, but evidently intimate enough to stir rumors. "Why do you care?" He lowered his voice, leaning closer. I don't know. Maybe I'm just realizing what I threw away." Natalie's jaw tightened. She took a slow breath, reminding herself she didn't owe him anything. Still, The moment begged for a final clarifying statement. "I'm dating men on my level now," she said, voice firm. "And Adrian Black is definitely on a different level than you." Liam's face fell. He opened his mouth, but no words came out. Natalie saw the pang of hurt and jealousy in his eyes, and felt nothing but satisfaction. She had spent enough tears on this man. Before he could recover, she added a final blow. "By the way, Adrian owns a large stake in your company. Did you know that?" Liam's eyes widened. He worked for a medium-sized tech firm. The realization that her close friend or boyfriend or mentor practically had power over his professional destiny seemed to paralyze him. She let a pause hang in the air, then offered a sweet, empty smile. "Enjoy your engagement party, Liam. Congratulations again." She pivoted on her heel, returning to the entrepreneur she'd been chatting with. The weight of unresolved tension fell from her shoulders. She had no regrets about delivering that bombshell. She wasn't petty, she was free, and she had every right to showcase her success. News traveled fast in the small circle of guests. Whispers circulated that Natalie was involved with Adrian Black, the wealthy entrepreneur with significant stakes in numerous tech companies, including Liam's employer. One could practically see Liam's panic. His future threatened both personally and professionally. Sophia tried to console him, but tension flared between them. Some guests discreetly observed the couple's bickering at the edge of the ballroom. The entire atmosphere seemed charged with drama, an undercurrent swirling beneath the veneer of celebratory music and champagne. Natalie, meanwhile, moved gracefully through the crowd, exuding poise. The ultimate power move wasn't screaming or causing a scene. It was simply living her truth, being there in all her glory, demonstrating that she didn't need revenge to prove her worth. Her success, her resilience, and her unwavering self-confidence were revenge enough. Toward the end of the evening, she stepped outside onto the rooftop terrace for a breath of fresh air. City lights sparkled below, a reminder of how far she'd come. She heard footsteps behind her and turned to see Adrian approaching. Dressed in a sharp suit, he gave her a knowing smile. "You handled yourself brilliantly in there," he said, nodding toward the ballroom. "I heard a few interesting rumors." She shrugged, lips curving in a playful grin. "I didn't say anything that wasn't true." Adrian chuckled softly. "You don't have to explain. I'm proud of how far you've come. We've got a big week ahead, new partnerships to finalize, more expansions on the horizon." Natalie nodded, letting the crisp night air fill her lungs. "I'm ready." He offered his arm. She looped hers through it without hesitation. Glancing over her shoulder, she took one last look at the party. Beyond the glass doors, she could see Liam and Sophia arguing quietly. She felt no sympathy, only a distant sense that they'd made their choices and had to live with them. And she had made hers, to rise above, to succeed beyond anyone's imagination, and to never again let betrayal define her. This was closure, the triumph she'd always wanted. As she and Adrian exited the Starview Hotel, the valet brought around a sleek black luxury car. Adrian opened the passenger door for her. She slipped inside, glancing up at him with a confident smile. "So," Adrian said, settling behind the wheel, "ready for the next chapter?" She met his gaze, recalling how lost she'd once felt. The woman who had sobbed in a hotel room after being left at the altar was gone. In her place was a powerhouse, resilient, self-made, and unstoppable. "Absolutely," she replied, her tone resolute. He started the engine, and the car glided away from the hotel, merging into the glowing city streets. Natalie leaned her head against the seat, allowing a wave of contentment to wash over her. She wasn't naive enough to think life would be smooth sailing from here on out, but she had discovered a truth she wished she'd known all along. She was complete on her own. Behind them, on the top floor of the Starview Hotel, Liam and Sophia stood amid a fractured celebration, fielding questions from guests who had witnessed more drama than they'd bargained for. Their engagement party had become a testament to Natalie's victory, rather than a celebration of their union. Word spread quickly, of course. Video clips from the evening, captured on phones, would circulate on social media. Natalie's stunning entrance, the tension with Liam, the rumors of Adrian's involvement. People would talk, and they would talk a lot. The story of the jilted bride who transformed herself and overshadowed her ex's engagement? It was pure viral gold. Yet, as the city lights blurred past in the rearview mirror, Natalie no longer cared about the gossip. She had reclaimed her narrative, making it clear she was far from broken, she was thriving. And if her story inspired others to rise from their heartbreak, so be it. A faint smile tugged at her lips as she looked ahead. Her life stretched before her like an open road, filled with promise and purpose. She had no intention of letting anyone else define her path. With Adrian by her side as a friend, partner, or simply a mentor, whatever the future held, she was confident she would write each new chapter on her own terms. And so, into the night she drove, leaving behind the wreckage of an old life for the boundless possibilities of a new one. The camera, if this were a film, would fade to black, capturing that last, triumphant look on her face, one that declared to the world, "I have won." I'm glad you made it to the end. I hope you enjoyed the story. Please go ahead and generously hit that like button and subscribe for more captivating tales like this. We'd love to hear from you. What lessons have you learned from this story? Share your thoughts in the comments below. See you in the next story.